Two more little things.
Czekam na potwierdzenie od nich. Pani Marta Zagata jest na 2 piętra wyżej, wiesz. Było pomysł jakiś. Ja mam takie wnioski Marta Zagata. Będą dzwonić do mnie. Ale to oni zadzwonią. Wiesz, że nie musimy ich popędzać. Oni z kolei czekają na sygnał z drukarni. I mamy na to wpływu. No. Rozumiesz?
Po prostu drukarni zadzwonią. Bo teraz jest taki moment, że ja nie skoczę. To tam może to nie wierzę. Bramy i ulotki. Dobra.
Tyle co nic.
Ja zostanę sobie tu gdzieś.
Tam lepiej właśnie. No. Dobrze. Okej. To już wchodzisz w kadr, ale to trudno.
A zaraz tu dziewczyna przyjdzie z tymi identyfikatorami.
Połóż tutaj na tym kartonie. No dobra. Że ona tu przyjdzie, tak? Za chwilę.
Ona tu tak.
Dobra.
Oh, it sounds like your pebbles. I anticipated your installation. Zoe. You said you might have a microphone stand somewhere?
Yes. Okay, I'm going to the concert hall.
If we have, oh, well, no, what, maybe even this lamp stand will work. See that?
Okay. Is it not? Is it not?
And do you have any gaffer tape, maybe? Or maybe not.
No, I have it in my car. Yes.
No, I don't need it. Do not need it for your car. I have something else.
Wait a minute, we can check the drawer here.
Okay, but I have
No,
something else.
no.
Okay, leave it right there. Thank you.
Okay. Jeżeli jesteś, to będziesz odpowiedzialny za te wszystkie urządzenia, które tu są. O, zaraz jeden z nich spadnie. Okej. Bachteczku, tu jest cały sprzęt. Teraz, jakbyś, masz komórkę z dostępem do sieci? To sprawdź, czy na stronie studia leci już transmisja. SME, a może Studio muzyki elektroakustycznej, Akademia Muzyczna, Kraków. To nie działa, także to jest taki powód, żeby Ciebie zająć czymś, bo stoisz nade mną a nie, to nie, myślałem, że masz po prostu transmisję. No, to nie żeby się łączyć z tym, tylko żeby... Simona. Bartek, Simona.
Nice to meet you.
My iPad is there.
Uh-huh.
I stream already, so you can check on the website of the studio. There are some other devices which I'm charging.
Okay.
So just to know, because maybe I will be busy with some other things, so that I can show you them to check it out whether everything's fine. You can go there and you can check, because I think this is the iPad on top is just webcasting.
True camera.
Yeah,
free
well,
camera.
I'm charging them now, but the webcast going on and also recording. So
Yeah.
that's okay. Ósme. Dobry?
Yes, I would add from
Czyli chodzi o indykatory. Tu jest wszystko i to... Aha, to jest to. A czy też Marek Kołoński, pamiętam. Dobry. Czy też ma Pani odebrać identyfikatory dla Was, czy szukamy Pani nazwiska?
możemy pisać nazwiska, ale mogę
Dobra. To ja mam problem. Nie, bo Konrad poleciał po rzeczy. Konrad poleciał do dostarczy po materiał. No. sme.amus.kraków.pl.
Okay, Mary, do you have 2 minutes? Or
Signing something?
rozumiem. To jest nagrane wcześniej?
Nie, bo to jest webcast jest zawsze z opóźnieniem. Także na spokojnym czasie dopiero. My robimy takie działania, że wykorzystujemy to. Robimy pętle w internecie.
Aha, rozumiem. I to idzie jeszcze do
Pętla.
bardzo pięknie.
A teraz słyszysz, co ja mówię. Powiem. W jakimś czasie usłyszysz to, co.
Ja już wyszedłem sobie. Chcesz, żeby się...
Masz jaka jest zasada działania tego. To między innymi po to ćwiczyłem, właśnie żeby się włączyć. Poczułem się. Chodzi.
Na polskim?
Nie.
To możemy narzucać, że... Tak, bo tu trzeba, będą ludzie z tej strony. Dziękuję bardzo. Będę. Dziękuję Ci bardzo i się cieszę, że Ci się udało to zrobić.
Będziesz chodził?
Będę. Dawaj. Chyba nie góry, Marcia? Nie góry. Fajnie. Postawię się
Jak zrobili, nie?
On tutaj ma takie walizki i tak dalej, to trzeba mu pomóc gdzieś do szafy dać. No bo jak tu nie widzisz? Tak?
Zasadniki. Ale tak się nie zamieni. Mam tu chwilę razy wykładał. Proszę się pokazać. Jesteśmy do pokazania. To jest to. Studentów nie było wcześniej tego rodziny, tylko później zdjęć. Albo może mi pomóc.
Can I help you?
Nope. You cannot.
Hi, can I? Well, thank you.
Well,
prawie tam jest.
Mark, is this your coffee?
Yeah, that's my coffee.
Here. Thank you. That's what I need. And one more thing. Three minutes.
No problem. Jeszcze chwilkę. Jeszcze poczekajcie, no ale tam to krzesła. No, it's okay, it's okay. Well, in fact, you can come. If you're two of us, yeah, because now I found that the feeling is up, so that's okay. Musisz to przyjmować. Ja o tym mówiłem podczas wywiadu. Powiedziałem, że jak zapowiedziałem studentom, że mają chodzić, obowiązkowo mają przychodzić na wykłady. Mówiłem o tym czy nie?
Jeżeli tak, to ja albo zapomniałem, bo to nie było przy mnie.
No, the sorry, but I shouldn't repeat this because I talked with Richard about the system of education which includes special events like this. So, in fact, fact, the Friday at 12, this is the class for composers and your music students. You are the only. You understand? So to synchronize a series of 11 events with the classes is the most logical idea. But then, which is my bad experience, can you imagine, after 2 weeks, so 1 week after the festival, they appear. And then I ask, and what? Oh, we wait for you, because we were busy during the festival, so that's why we didn't show up. What? Are you crazy? Are you serious? Well, that's one argument that happened to me 2 times. And another one is like dealing with this as a obligation, as a duty. So I'm mentioned for my Wednesday class. Okay, we have this 11, which is the extra education. How we can do it? How we can handle it? Okay, do you have any idea? I said, they look at me, I said, okay, so that's obligatory this year. First time in my life. No doubt. No other choice. You have to come. Oh, we can't because, you know, oh, I see this, I have another class, I have an obligatory class like this. Okay, so forget about it. So what do you propose? Silence. So let's make a deal. Okay. Second proposal. If you go for all of them, you don't need to go to my class after, till the end of the semester. I can give you the credit on the last lecture, the full credit. So some of them were like,
Yes.
then how many of you? One. That's beautiful because you know what was the result? I'm at a train. How many you should attend by your mind to be?
My lecture has begun.
You just started.
We can. I'm ready.
I'm waiting for my students.
We can wait a minute, and I can practice. That's good too.
No, so then the question is whether I should make a revanche and then like keep them later.
Good morning.
So let's take a seat. They're still best seats. So I think my story is over, I think. At the very moment.
Perfect timing for the story to be over.
strong.
Bo to potem zostało Bo ja o to akurat dbałem, żeby to zostało. Dobra? Pozdrawiam. Czekaj, dobra. Do pani tej, do pani jest na Akademii Faktora? Czy jest dla nas na Muzykę Centrum? Muzyka Centrum, Akademia Muzyczna. Biuro Promocji Artystycznej na drugim piętrze po lewej stronie. Tam tym pani, tak, jeżeli się zwęża korytarz po szklanych drzwiach, to takie drzwi ukośne po prawej stronie, to jest to miejsce.
Ah, look at that. See, Marek, I told you these things might jiggle. Jiggle out? No.
Każde urządzenie, żeby nie było mniej dokładnie. Ale możesz mi powiedzieć, czy nie? Możesz mi powiedzieć, że przewyżam do tego, nie ma czasu. W tej chwili to są te twoje składki, ja wstaję.
Już to wszystko co jest. Wszystko podawane do góry podwyższało, to co on pamięta. Że jeszcze coś takiego, tak, bo to jest 70. Sorry, bo ja jeszcze byłem w przedszkolu. No to już nie było ważne.
Właśnie tu mamy nawet to jest ten czas. Facet szkoły, że jest szlak trafił. 75.
To ja to zrobię.
Ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. So that's a really special moment for me and for you guys, because we have several elements which are unique in this very moment. Well, forget about the festival, you know, because the festival is you have here, so you can check it out, and we'll talk about many times. But the fact that Richard is with us, it's a really holy moment.
Special moment. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
We are close friends since 1989. He came as a second Fulbright professor with a lot of equipment, but what is even more important, with the whole family.
Yes.
And we share also the family concerts with two
Our
kids,
children. Yes.
my 3 kids, and that was really awesome.
Yeah.
In a certain moment, we were supported by American U.S. consulate, but that was quite past, quite a long story, but it still stays in my mind. You
Yes.
know, that
Mine too.
perhaps some of you were not born yet.
That's right. Most of you were not.
So the time is changing, of course,
Yes.
and it is visible in here. And I think we will be in trouble to pass all those gear now during this 1 hour and a half lecture. But
we'll see.
this is like also like a special introduction to your concert tomorrow.
Yes.
Because the concert is at the whole block starts at 6 o'clock at Hedre. And then you will compare those two things, because I think that this is also a very special decision by Richard to brought most of the things here during the lecture.
Right.
Not using the recording, not using the website.
Yes.
But
No.
really the touch,
I'm
the
going to
gear.
teach you C sound in 10 minutes. Well,
Okay.
20 minutes. The lecture is called Instant C Sound because I want to show you how easy it is to use, how easy and powerful it is to use. And I want to thank Marek and the studio here for having me again, and I'm so happy to be able to make a presentation as well. I have a great connection with this studio and with Marek, his family, his music. I think of us as soulmates. We're both crazy, hardworking, just saying yes to everything type composers and trying to make things happen in the world. And that's what Marek has done. And I knew that about him before I even arrived. And we've done a lot together, and it's really great. You know, the thing I want to sort of show you and do with you is make some C sound, and everything that I will do will be involving C sound as a language. People don't use C sound. Not enough people use C sound, and I don't know why. It's not frightening,
difficult.
It's powerful. It's not difficult, but it does expect you to think. And when you don't know something, C sound will let you know you don't know. I mean, and that's why most people, that is the problem, because with so many things, so many wonderful technologies today, I don't know anything about a car, and I'm driving all over the place. I'm empowered by that technology. I don't know anything about cameras or photography, and my cameras are smart, and I love that. And C-Sound has all that smarts too, and that's what I'm about to show you. I'm about to show you all the ways that C-Sound just works, and you can use it instantly and very, very well. I also brought a little bit of my piece so that I could play it, test it, and play a little of one of the major pieces that I'm going to play tomorrow night, which involves C-Sound in a new form. C-Sound is everywhere. Here I'm just using OSC. I'm running C-Sound on this old PowerPC computer, and these are C-Sound synthetic instruments. And so a big part of what I'm caring about in all of my life is how to play sound, how to perform with sound, how to make expressive and powerful and interesting sounds, and then sort of build them into a musical world and context. So this is just one of my little instruments. And each features a different kind of C-Sound opcode. I have volume here, I have panning here, I guess it's reversed. I have all kinds of buttons that change the behavior of the instrument. And I like that it's wireless so that I can kind of walk around and play. You'll hear some of these instruments even in my other pieces. But it's just, challenge number one for me has always been a bigger challenge that has nothing to do with C-Sound, but how to integrate new sound into music, how to expand what we do with music sonically, how to how to love the world that we live in and find ways of bringing it into our symphonies and into our chamber music and into our performances. And so And so that ending is pretty cool. But you'll hear the whole piece tomorrow night. But some overmodulated FM, some really beautiful kind of ambient textures, some granular processing, etc. In a minute, I'll show you how to make all these sounds and how to actually do them. But I just wanted to kind of tease out a little of one of the pieces that I'll be playing tomorrow night and test it. And again, show you that part of expressive performance has to do with the controller that's expressive. It has to do with your ability to map one control to many. You know, you have to just do obvious things, as all of us know, be able to start them, stop them, shape them, spatialize them, and decide how to organize them. So this piece allows me with a trigger to move from one sound library to another. The best performance of this piece that I've done, and it's fully scored, I have a graphical notation and I show the people how to move their hands, and it's kind of like a dance number. One of the best performances I did was in Seoul, Korea, in their opera house, like their Carnegie Hall, at a big festival. So we had speakers on 4 floors, and I played with 10 of my Korean musicians and their teachers. And we each were kind of moving around, and there was a beautiful choreography. At one point, we all kind of get up, and it's almost like a boy band video, where we're all kind of moving the same and jabbing and everything. It was a lot of fun. And to get the teachers to kind of do this with the students was also fun, too. When Marek told you that I very much loved that we had our children playing together, that was really special. He had to get permission, in fact, to allow some of his younger children to play modern music because their conservatory professors didn't want it to ruin their violin technique or spoil their idea of what good music was. And so it was really a wonderful, joyous experience to involve our children. We have them playing games and doing things with game controllers and making the music out of that. It was really very special. But and that was the idea too, to get all the professors to play with their students and have a little bit of fun with a different kind of controller. I thought was a breakthrough as well. So this is a little touch. But, you know, C-Sound does all kinds of things. I'm going to run a C-Sound orchestra with you. Well, no, let me show you something else first. I think I'm here. Let's get rid of all of that. And let's just do this. The important thing about C-Sound is it runs everywhere. It runs on your iPhones, on your Androids. It runs on Raspberry Pis. I didn't bring my Raspberry Pi collection. I couldn't because of weight. But I have a whole bunch of instruments now that just run on Raspberry Pis. And that's wonderful because the whole entire C-Sound language. Now let me tell you about the C-Sound language for a second. There are over 2,000 opcodes in the language. That's modules, although some are dumb, but some are very smart. Secondly, it's completely open source. And so whatever you do with C-Sound, you can sell. And this is a product that I made with a DJ student of mine, BT, and we made this app called Muse. We were paid $60,000 to write the app, just to promote this new Leap Motion kind of controller. And so you see my hands, and this is all C-Sound again, just kind of playing and working. And we built this, I actually made it for my mom, so that she could have, and my granddaughters, who now play this and have fun with it. And we use it in music therapy with students with limited mobility. But I've also written a concerto for this with full symphony orchestra. And the piece begins with me not playing as a soloist without touching anything. I thought that was nice. And then there are horn solos, and it's a pretty neat piece. The soloist was from the Boston Symphony, and But you get the idea. This again is C sound. So C sound sounds beautiful, sounds better than Max MSP, sounds better than Reactor, sounds better than any software synthesizer you've used. And why is that? Because it's 64-bit floating point precision for all of our DSP algorithms. It's a cleaner code under the hood. That doesn't mean that Ableton Live won't sound this good later, and I, by the way, love Ableton Live, or Logic doesn't sound this cool, because I love Logic, and I use every tool, we all do. But I do like that C sound sounds so good. This is the drum kit here. This is a little bit darker. And these are a little more exotic. And there's also continuous control that you might be able to see a little of as I'm moving my hands too. And these are sound textures here. So you see it responds to swipes and all kinds of little things. And, you know, we've built in MIDI controls and fade outs and commands that, you know, have it fade out and quit. I've got an algorithmic composer in here called AutoMuse. Again, you have to have an elegant way of stopping your music. That was Q, just kind of faded everybody out for us. And I could fade back in or have it sort of run as well. So just another fun application of C Sound. So what's the point? C Sound is free, it's open source, you can build stuff with it, you can use it anywhere, you can learn from it. And that's the most exciting thing for me about the language, is that you really can learn with it. It's a lifetime commitment, well, like music is, like most of the things we do are. The cool thing about C Sound is it's future-proof, and so whenever I've composed a piece in C Sound in 1979 or 89 or 99, the piece still runs. We're very committed to the stability of the language. I have a team of developers that have been working internationally to make the code even better. Just had a beautiful international C Sound conference in Italy. We've had one in St. Petersburg. We've had one at Berkeley College of Music. And by the way, I'm a professor at the Berkeley College of Music. I just bought this especially for this trip. So I went home and my wife said, "What are you doing buying all this?" Sorry, because I bought the scarf, the mittens, the gloves, you know. I didn't get the socks. I could have. I should have. But, you know, it's free. It's open source. You can learn. You can adapt the code. And like I said, it runs on anything. iPhones, iPads, Androids. You know, in a minute I can run the same C Sound orchestra that I'll run here on my phone for you, and we can just run it there. So that's encouraging too, and the idea of it being future-proof is pretty important as well, that as you learn things and work on things with it, you know, they'll still run. They'll run 20 years from now. You're too young to maybe feel that yet. But I just had my birthday last week. I'm 63. And, you know, pieces that I wrote in my 20s are some of my better pieces still, sadly. I wish my pieces kept getting better, but some are really great then. But I don't like to throw away any of my hard work. None of us should. And yet most of us do. Either because there's a new operating system or a new computer, or because there's, you know, that version of Live doesn't run this anymore, or those plugins don't run. Apple's just converted all their operating systems to 64-bit, and a lot of things that people rely on in Max MSP and Jitter aren't going to run for a little while, if ever. And so I like the fact that C Sound will run everywhere, and in a second I'll show you a little bit more. But, you know, just to show you that it's quite beautiful, and it works with MIDI and all that, here's a little something. One of my pieces in my concert is dedicated to a student of mine. His name is Shengzheng Zhang, and Shengzheng had an accident and passed away very young age, super C sounder, I end one of my big modular pieces, which I'm going to play you in a minute, Cloning a Dragon, with Shengzhen's lullaby, one of his instruments. He took my C Sound class, did all kinds of things that I never taught anybody, developed MPE instruments, which no one in C Sound has done yet except the guy who invented the MP and E opcode and Shengzhen. So he left me a lot of work I need to catch up on, and that's the other cool thing about C Sound. I'm always discovering new ways to do it. By the way, we do live coding now in C Sound. There's all kinds of live coding libraries, etc. But, you know, one of Shengzhen's projects that he left at the end of the semester involves scan synthesis. And it's just this beautiful little lullaby that I'll just show you now. You know, MIDI control works. In a minute, we'll make a MIDI keyboard, and as I said, in about 15 minutes, I'll show you everything you need to know to use C-Sound on all of your projects right now, and also how to get into it quickly, and then maybe find an excuse to even learn a little bit about it too. So here I'm controlling this with MIDI. A MIDI file is playing in the background. And this is Sheng Sen's Lullaby, one of the last pieces of music he ever wrote. So the background, a MIDI file is controlling that instrument. Nice things are going on in this piece. This is an example of scanned synthesis. It's the last synthesis algorithm that was developed by my great friend Max Matthews. Max Matthews is the father of computer music. He and I worked together for 25 years, and Max was developing this new way of turning an oscillator into a waveguide and into a filter. So the table lookup oscillator, which Max Matthews invented, it's the core technology for all computer music, he also then rethought the model of a table lookup oscillator and made basically this new synthesis technique in which there's a kind of the oscillator, all this kind of filtering that you're hearing, almost the timbre evolving. There's no filters. This is just the oscillator itself behaving in a unique way because of the model, or him rethinking how to the reverb that you're hearing on this instrument, though, is the Valhalla DSP reverbs. I don't know if you use the Valhalla DSP plugins, but everyone does who's making pop music. And Sean Costello is a C-Sound developer. Melodyne was prototyped in C-Sound as a C-Sound opcode, and then commercialized. So it's a nice place to live in the future, to future-proof your instruments, and to develop new technologies. So this is just a tiny example of a C-Sound instrument running in real time. But let me show you quickly. Oh, well, yes, I'll end with my piece. What I want to tell you is that a number of my students have started companies, software companies and hardware companies. I have a class in circuit bending, and sort of the end project in circuit bending is to build some Raspberry Pi synthesizer and dump C-Sound onto it. And by the way, to get C-Sound running on a Raspberry Pi, I'd like to tell you how hard that is. Ready? CS apt get install C-Sound. That's it. 2 minutes later, all of C-Sound is running on your Raspberry Pi 4 or 3 or 2 for $35. And so we make foot pedals now, we make effects processors, my students make all kinds of gadgets. Just make a nice instrument, throw it into a box for $35, you're good to go. You might want to buy a little shield for audio on top of that, but it's that easy as well. So C-Sound has found its way into modular synthesizers as well. And a number of my students started companies. This company, Qubit, is one of them. And they started with a C-Sound module called the Nebula, which you'll hear in my piece in a minute, but you'll hear more of it tomorrow night. The Qubit Nebula, they sold a lot of them, thousands of them. They started the company with just $5,000 investment from one of their parents. Now they have something like 17 employees. They own a factory. They build modules for other companies. It's very successful. I just told you about scanned synthesis. Well, this module has a name, Scanned, because they've commercialized the scan opcode now as a hardware module. And the whole idea of voltage-controlled C-Sound really appeals to me personally because I started with the ARP synthesizer company. Alan Perlman is also my very dear friend, ARP Alan Perlman, and he commissioned my first symphony when I was very young. I was 18. They commissioned a symphony for 2 synthesizers and orchestra. And so I always loved my ARP, and then I got into C-Sound wishing I had more money to buy more modules, which I couldn't afford, and then C-Sound gave me infinite number of modules. But then I got back to modules where my students started to build Raspberry Pi-based C-Sound. And so these will allow me to show you the very new ways. So here are 3 nebulas, there's a 4th nebula, there's a 5th nebula, there's C-Sound running in a lot of things up here. And so the idea of voltage-controlled C-Sound and playing with it and touching it, almost like I like with that controller, or I like with any controller. But, you know, MIDI controllers or any kind of keyboard controller is the absolute wrong interface for performing sound. It's to play pianos. And so other kinds of controllers are a blast. I'll play the theremin. I have a beautiful C-Sound brainwave instrument, which I might get to show you if we have a minute. But we'll look at that in a few seconds. So, these are some of my iPad apps: CS Spectral, CS Grain, CS Jam, and all of the. There's now about 30 or 40 iPad apps that run, and that under the hood is all of C-Sound. You wouldn't even know it. Company ApeSoft does a lot of them, in case you want to know that company, Alessandro Petrolati. But there's an emulation of the VCS Synthi, the VCS3. I don't know if any of you have seen that iPhone, right? That's C-Sound. It's not, the synthesizer under the hood is C-Sound. So Alessandro did that. So there are a lot of really cool iPad and iPhone apps that have C-Sound under the hood too, which is kind of nice. Now, I'll come back to playing that piece in a minute. I'll be using my iPad for processing real-time phase vocoders run in my C-Sound app. There's no other app with a real-time phase vocoder in it yet, except our CS Spectral, because we're just using C-Sound opcodes. But let me show you quickly how to do things with C-Sound really fast. So this is the C-Sound interface, the C-Sound IDE, to get started. And if you were to get started, you'd go to the csound.com website, and I might even have it online here, I don't know. I might not be on your web, but if I do, you'll want to go to csound.com, and that's the website where you'll find everything C-Sound, all the latest downloads, the downloads for iOS development, the API, the downloads for open, for C-Sound for the web. By the way, it all runs on a web browser now. You don't even have to install anything. My new C-Sound book that I'm writing, oh, there you go. I have to have a login and password next time I come. But everything is at csound.com, and you'll find all the downloads, all the latest, and like I said, all the different flavors of C-Sound for Windows, for PCs, for Linux machines. The version of C-Sound that runs on your Raspberry Pi is the Linux distro. And so the whole thing is C-Sound, like I said, runs on anything. That's where you get it. But typically the way we like to work with it to build instruments and make things, and this is maybe what scares everyone, because it looks like you're programming. Looks like all of a sudden I have to learn a programming language, and I would rather use Max MSP help files where I don't know what I'm doing, but I can connect a MIDI into it, and now I'm a video genius. That's what we do with Max MSP. We love that. So we did that in C-Sound too. We made help files for you that are part of our manual so that you can instantly do that. By the way, just so you know about Max, first of all, like I said, Max Matthews and I are the greatest friends. Miller Puckett and I are the greatest friends. Miller Puckett wrote Max to control C-Sound. It's called Patcher. For Barry Verco. Miller Puckett, who wrote Max. MSP, or Miller Puckett's initials, because he gave MSP to David Ziccarelli. David Ziccarelli is also a protege of Max Matthews. We're all friends, the whole group of us. I was there the day they gave Max to Max Matthews. And in Max Matthews' last years of his life, my student, Diane Douglas, was teaching Max, finally. So don't get me wrong, I love Max, I teach Max, I love every tool. And by the way, I forgot to tell you that all of C-Sound, which I'm going to show you in a minute, is a single opcode in Max MSP. The whole language, all of these opcodes, your whole C-Sound world runs as a Max patch. So that means it also runs in Max for Live, which I'm also going to show you in a minute. I'm going to show you all of C-Sound running as a live plugin. and all kinds of live instruments we've got a whole library called C-Sound for Live. So C-Sound's everywhere, runs with everything you use, it runs as part of everything you use, and it's super stable, and, well, you'll decide, maybe someday with a test, to see if you really do think it sounds better. But even if it doesn't sound better, it has a future. And what you learn, like I said, it's a great place to learn. But let's imagine I've opened and launched this thing called C-Sound QT. It's a front end for C-Sound, an IDE, and just to get it working, the process that let's turn this off.
Yes.
The process that we use, generally the first thing you want to do is make sure when you're using C-Sound that you've set it up to have the right MIDI input and to make sure it's talking to the right DAC. Right? So this is all under the configurations like preferences. C-Sound won't work at all if you don't, right? Okay. So now mine is set up correctly for MIDI and all that, but now the real extra bonus power of C-Sound is now what we include in the examples menu. So here are all your presets, just like your Mac's MSP help files. Here's everything you need to get started. Now, generally what I do just to make sure things are working is I launch some piece by someone else. This piece Xanadu by Joe Kung, and I just make sure it's running. So we're running C-Sound, it's working, I'm rendering the file, it's running live, we're not playing any samples, I'm computing it on the fly, on this machine or on any machine. This example, from what year was it? 1988, again, maybe before you were born, uses a form of synthesis called amplitude modulated FM. Guess what? There's no amplitude modulated FM synthesizers, there's no amplitude modulated FM plugins, and no one yet has made a buck on amplitude modulated FM as a synthesis technique, but you could. It's part of, again, my example that C-Sound has all of this stuff waiting for you to not only use and enjoy, but to market and sell and promote. Okay, it works. Good. That still didn't help me. It helps me a little, but I don't know all of this plucks and things. But I can at least tell you this as we get started, that C-Sound has 2,000 modules, like I said, and each of them is an opcode. And, so definitely I think you might know that oscill might be an oscillator. And in fact, when you click on an opcode, you get some kind of a help screen, and you get a help bar down below, and you can also instantly go to the manual and read about it. And if I look something up in the manual, like the pluck opcode, I could say, well, that's a physical model. It's been in C-Sound since 1970-something. Physical modeling synthesizers only started to hit the market in the 90s, 20 years later. We could have all been rich if we had just done something with this module. But the bottom line is, if I hold down Shift-Command F1, up comes the manual, up comes the manual page on Pluck, and I could read about it, or I could just go down to the bottom and say, let me launch the Pluck C-Sound instrument, here it comes, and I could say, let me just hear Pluck and how it works, let me look at it and see what it does, let me make some changes, let me see if I understand what the Pluck opcode does. Now, so the manual, every single of the 2,000 opcodes has a manual page that kind of works and either makes a little bit of a dumb little sound like this, or even makes a little bit of a musical piece, okay? So I've got a manual that works, I've got a language, and maybe I'm already saying, boy, I wish I could have a class with Dr. Richard Boulanger on C-Sound so that I could learn the language, and it takes about a semester of just holding your hand and and what does that mean? It doesn't mean learning to use the language, which I'm going to show you now in 10 minutes. Learning the language is how I can start making my own really original instruments. So I'm teaching you to build Ferraris in my class. I'm not teaching you to drive one. Today I'm going to teach you to drive one. I'm going to hand you the keys, show you where you put the gas, show you where to steer, where the pedals are, and you're going to be able to use C-Sound in all your projects, like I said, in about 20 minutes. But if you really want to learn it, make your own spaceship, then, that'll take you about a semester. And there are a number of C-Sound books and a number of C-Sound online courses, online things too. So there are lots of ways of really learning it. It's not that hard. It's very logical and very simple. And like I said, there's all this help. But right now, to take you to some of the quicker things. So under this examples menu, there's also a lot of other stuff. Let's say, for instance, I want to choose a software synth. Let's say like Pipe Synth. Now again, I see all this code over here that I don't understand yet because I don't really know how C-Sound works. But I also see this thing called widgets. Oh look, wait a minute. Pipe Synth has called up a graphical user interface, which is user editable, and in fact I can just pull it off, and I can just render like this. And of course it's a MIDI instrument, so I can just play. And wait, it has presets, seems like it. And nice little displays. And it has all these controls that I could kind of touch. Because it's a physical model instrument. Wait, there's more. I could edit it. I needed a little table or a little other music stand, but a chair might even be nice, so I don't have to crunch so much. That's perfect. Boom. Okay. Now, so the other thing is I could edit, and every widget here I could double click on, and I could tell it I'd like it to maybe MIDI learn or something. Let's see if my MIDI learn is working today. Oh yeah. So I could say set and close, and I could say apply or OK, and I could lock this back up, and now, hey, oh, kind of worked. I guess not. It was happy for a second. But my point is they're all kind of, now it's showing that it's there. Why didn't it like it? Yeah, oh, you know what?
It will be the matter of the controller.
No, it's the control. It's a brand new controller. Yeah. But secondly, it looks like it's going from just 0 to 127. It's not getting the continuous value. You know what I mean? So it could be that. But in any case, what I want to show you is you have all these synths. That's step number 1. Now step number 2 is, okay, I've got this synth. I like the sound. I like that maybe I can play it, but that doesn't do me any good unless, wait, there's a little button here in the C-Sound QT called record. Oh, maybe, like I said, we're going to learn C-Sound in 10 minutes, right? Actually, I always thought I could do it in 20 minutes, but I was in China giving a lecture like a week ago, and all of a sudden there were all of us giving lectures, and they said, Richard, 10 minutes. And it was like, first of all, it was supposed to be an hour-and-a-half lecture, and I had just given the lecture the day before. I had 3 hours to do this nice big workshop and performance at the Shanghai Conservatory, and all of a sudden it went from 3 hours to you're going to have an hour to you're going to have only 20 minutes to you're going to have 10 minutes. So that's the next book, Instant C-Sound. Like I said, it's just going to be like quick start. But the bottom line is, if I save this instrument, because right now if I were to save it, it's going to be like in the background. So I'll just save this pipe synth somewhere like on my desktop. And if I save the instrument, but now if I hit record, okay, and I hit stop or pause or whatever, it should have written a wave file for me. Okay, so there's stuff. I can use it right away as a software synthesizer. I can use it with other projects. I can use it to make samples. Wait, maybe I could see what else is under that menu for a second. Let's drop that widget back where it belongs. And let's go under examples, and let's choose maybe from miscellaneous. Let's choose SF granular for a second. Did I want SF granular or no? I wanted live granular. Well, I could load in any sound file that I want, right? And I could process it. So I could do that. Let's just do that because you've got some audio, you've made some samples, you want to record and process and take advantage of C-Sound's real-time granular input to kind of process some sound. Well, first of all, let me open a file for a second because again, our widgets are pretty nice. Let me go to my samples directory. Let's pick some drum sample or something like this drum beat because you're a commercial person who really needs beats. And let's see if I get this to work. I don't know. So I could say, again, like I said, let's save as, and I could be processing this or processing any, right? And by the way, I can throw this on my Raspberry Pi for $35, this instrument, and I can hand out free Raspberry Pi granular synthesizer sample players. I can do installations all over town with 57 Raspberry Pis and little mini speakers, all running individual versions of C-Sound, doing all kinds of amazing little things, right? Very cost effective. But let's say we throw Soundfile Granular out there, and let's play for a minute. Let's hit record, and let's do just a tiny bit. Okay, so now, let's say stop, and supposedly out here, I think that might be out there, I don't know. There it is, okay? So I've now shown you that I can use C-Sound just like it is out of the box to process audio. By the way, there are about 500 example instruments in there that work with widgets. So you've got a huge plugin library right there, just because you downloaded from C-Sound. By the way, the Windows version looks just like this. And by the way, oh, I forgot, on my Raspberry Pi, I can say sudo, did I say CS? Sudo apt-get install C-Sound Qt. And this is there. So now I got my little thing, and I got the window here. I learned it here. It's the same here. It looks like this on Linux. It looks like this on Windows. It looks like this on Mac. So boom, you've got it. But wait, let's try one more, because you're into live performance and improvising. I'm going to play with this drummer tomorrow night, this kid, this little 7-year-old, 5-year-old I played with 20 years ago, Tomek Korniewski, who's now, as you guys know, virtuoso drumming. I think then he might have just been playing on a chair. I think in the concert in 1989 or 90, he was just sitting and standing. But now he'll do some of that too tomorrow night. I'll insist on it. But let's go here instead to, under another example, let's say we want to do, live collection. Oh, how about live granular? Oh, here comes a nice little widget. Now, we have to be a little careful about feedback, so I'll be a little careful. Let's say, okay, input gain way down for now. Okay, so here we go. We're running it. La 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 la. Oh, well, wait. And maybe it's not working because, let's go back to configure. Where's my live input? Oh, I did not choose a live input yet, right? So boom, let's say live input should be my built-in microphone or something. There it is. Maybe I want to put a better mic so I avoid feedback. By the way, we're running 24-bit, 96K, whatever you want. We have multiple channels of audio. C-Sound will support 80, 90, 100 channels of audio simultaneously, whatever you want. We have ambisonic opcodes. We have VR opcodes. We have fuzzy logic and the neural networks and all kinds of things that you might want to use. We support gloves and Wiimotes and all that as opcodes in the language too. And as you see now, we have widgets and all kinds of graphical opcodes too. But here we go. Let's start again. 1 1 1 1 1 1 la 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 la. Are we there? Hold on, it's not working. La. Okay, back to here. I was too soon. What do I want? I want. Let's try that. Hold on. MacBook mic. We're good, good, good. Come on, baby. Okay, hold on. 1 1 1 1 1 1 1. Okay, there we go. So did you see what I needed to do? I needed to set up, maybe I needed core audio instead of port audio. Maybe I needed, so I had to make sure what drivers I was using. But here we go. We've got sound. Now, you're not hearing anything because my grains aren't out. 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 2 1 2. Now why it's coming out back there, I don't know, but oh, you know what it is? It's coming out of your projector. Ready? What did I do? Output device. Went to DAC 2. 1 1 1 1 1. Come on. Stop. Go. 1 1 1. Yeah. Okay, now.
Good speakers.
I got it. Don't worry about the speakers. They're coming back. I got it. I'm under control. I'm watching. 1 1 1 1 1. You get the idea. That I could. Oh, hey. Hold on. Let's put that down. Let's put this up. Let's put this up. You get my point, right? Real-time audio processing, audio granularization. I can save all of this. I could make my little Raspberry Pi box do this. Right? And this is just one of the many instruments. The real library that's here that's unbelievable is this McCurdy collection, all broken down by 3D audio, FFT, filters, things. Really remarkable set of instruments, and they all have graphical front ends. So if we choose granular, like one of my favorites is this guy. And again, all of these by going Command E are editable and mappable via MIDI. But this guy's one of my favorites, so we kind of turn them on. Oh. And let's tell it to use the XY. And let's tell him to turn on EQ and reverb and some delay and some chorus. Tomorrow night, for about 49 minutes of my concert, just this. And of course I'll have to do it with my mouth too, like with a microphone, so that I have a choir. And so, but you get the idea. This is just, again, one of something like 400 other instruments that are waiting for you in the C-Sound app to have fun with. I can come back in a minute and show you, well, let me just teach you for 1 second how C-Sound works, if you'll allow, because then I want to show you C-Sound in a couple of other programs that make it a lot of fun too. I want to show it to you in Max, I want to show it to you with Jitter, I want to show it to you in this new front end for C-Sound called Cabbage. Because the other advantage of C-Sound, Cabbage, graphical instruments, a totally different interface. It uses Juice, so it's a little sexier than knobs and sliders. But Cabbage wraps all the C-Sound instruments with Juice and has all kinds of plugins. Rory Walsh wrote this. And the cool thing about Cabbage is you export as VSTs or audio units. And so all of a sudden your C-Sound instrument just runs in Pro Tools, or you don't run C-Sound. Now I just showed you if you just get C-Sound, you can run it today. But Cabbage, download that, you can say export as an audio unit and just throw it in your thing. I don't even need C-Sound. C-Sound gets bundled with the app, and I'll show you that in a minute. But I wanted to show you maybe just for a second just how C-Sound itself really works. Let's imagine that we choose, just from my original tutorials that I wrote back in 1990 when I came here. So this is the simplest of C-Sound instruments, and I just want to show you what the language looks like, okay? It's just an oscillator. Where are you? Okay, now, let's turn the mic off. And back to port audio or something like this. And let's make sure here we're using the right output again. Yeah. Okay. So, okay, just a little sine wave with a scope. Now, so, how it really works is just something like this. Like I said, C-Sound is made up of an orchestra and a score. And we now, so I hope you don't mind, this will be the nerdy kind of programming way. Is C-Sound, are you learning a programming language? No. Is it written in C? Do you need to know C programming to do C-Sound? No. Mm-hmm. It's just a giant modular synthesizer, usually done from a text editor. But as you see, it has all these widgets and things if you want. So you can work with that, you can add that. I can link any knob or controller to my C-Sound instruments. C-Sound is written in C. So when you're looking at the source code and you're under the hood, if you want to add your own module to C-Sound, let's say I want to add an entropy module. So Marek Koniewski's piece that's on display is called Entropy, and maybe I'd like a module that does entropic degradation and things kind of decay and randomize according to some entropy principle that Marek might have being expressed in his algorithm. Well, then maybe I do need to learn a little C programming then. Now I've written the audio programming book, and the audio programming book, which is published by MIT Press, teaches musicians how to write code. And some of it shows you how to add code to C sound, but it really is just to learn how to write audio processing algorithms. So if you want to learn code, I've written that book too. It took 10 years. It took 5 years to write the C sound book, 10 years to write the audio programming book, and I have a couple more books that are coming now. But
You want to see.
there it is, the C sound book. Yeah, there it is. That guy. We're revising it now, which is going to be kind of nice because the whole book will run online now in a web browser. And so you'll go to chapter whatever.
With Richard personal dedication.
Yes, there you go. Very nice. Yes.
2003.
Good. Yep. And it's still, everything in the book is still, everything in the, that's
Wait a minute,
wonderful.
please.
That makes me so,
physical here
that
as
makes,
well.
that makes me so happy. The thing about the C Sound book is everything still runs. Everything in the book still runs, and it is a good way to learn synthesis. Now, let me tell you about the C Sound book. I did not write it all. I was the editor. I wrote the first chapter, big chapter, and it's good, and I'm writing a brand new one. But what I did was I made a lot of friends over the years, and I found the best FM guy, the best granular guy, the best LPC woman, and I said, please, how would you like to write a chapter for the book, which I then edited, so they're really great teachers. They're really small chapters, and each one really teaches you something about synthesis as well as about C Sound. Yeah. And so they're the best. And also the C Sound book, well, I brought along some copies of some things for you, for some of you, to both share. And these are all the latest C Sounds, the latest C Sound instruments, the complete C Sound catalog. So I brought these to share, and I brought an even bigger one. It's somewhere else from Marek, which has even more kind of important ingredients. But these are 16 gigabytes of C Sound instruments, thousands of them, the C Sound installers, and also some of the other tools that I'm about to show you right now. Cabbage, Cecilia, Audacity, things like that. So I brought a present for you anyway today, and the new C Sound book will be even better. The new revised one, it'll be 25 years when it comes out. So this was written and published in 1990 or 2000, and I started writing in 95, 2000. So the new one will be in 2025. We'll make a silver cover because it'll be the silver edition. And the new book will have 40% of that will come out of the book and go on the web, and 40% new content. And all the new content will be how to make C Sound apps for the iPad, iPhone, Android, how to do C Sound on the Raspberry Pi, all kinds of embedded C Sound, how to use C Sound with OSC and other controllers, wireless C Sound live coding, C Sound on the web, and C Sound iOS. So all of the newer kind of ways of working with C Sound to make things are going to be the new 40% that replaces what's there. But what is there, again, I have had people tell me this, and it makes me very happy, that it helps them learn. You know, it kind of explains very clearly this concept of synthesis or this concept of convolution or DSP. And so it's a pretty good book in that sense, that if you really want to learn. See, my problem always, before this book, Curtis Rhodes and I are great friends, had the computer music tutorial, which I love, and we play together, we collaborate. And I love that book because it's so filled with useful information, except there's still not an application. So you're reading about granular synthesis there, and you're saying, and Curtis is the genius of granular synthesis, and I'm saying, I think I get what he means. Well, here when you read about granular synthesis, not only do you say, I get what he means, then you say, well, let me try that, let me touch that, let me see that. And so I always felt like the C Sound book gave me what I needed, which was everything is here, everything works, and I could read it, touch it. I feel like musicians learn with their ears and their fingers more, or their lips, or whatever. And so that was really the goal of that book. And I'm happy to say it still runs, it still works, and the new version will be even cooler. So let me just show you again the theory or the way it works. You have an orchestra and a score file, which we now combine with these like HTML tags into a single document, a CSD file. There's the computer music tutorial, exactly. And so it's the greatest, and I wanted my book to be a little bigger than that. Now it is, because there are 42, no it is, it's bigger, but MIT wouldn't let me do it. There are 42 additional chapters to my book that they made me put on the CD-ROM or on the DVD. You all get those, and you'll get them updated. So my book actually has more pages, and they're all edited, and they all work. But MIT had a heck.
I would show it away.
Yes, no. They had a heck of a time selling this book because it was so big and so heavy, and people never, we all got back problems and sued MIT because we now have chiropractor bills, and so they've made smaller versions. Curtis Rhodes right now is working on a small new version of this book, and MIT then said, no, Richard, we don't want more than 1,000 pages or something like that. And so I think this one has 2,000 or something, maybe more, 20 or even 3,000, but. What is it, 2,000 something?
The page is 1,000, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1,020,
Oh,
3, 4 pages.
Well, I'll remember that. So mine had to be under 1,000. I think we were like 800.
Well, let's see.
Okay,
Okay. 740.
Okay, yeah.
So that's it.
Yeah, say 7 something or whatever. Yeah. So disappointing. But in fact, some
But
of
the
the
content is important.
well, yes, and some of the chapters.
We have some pictures.
I have
We
some pictures here.
Yeah.
Some of the chapters are on the DVD though, which you'll now get on these cartridges because I've converted them all to PDFs. Are really extraordinary. There's one on fuzzy logic. There's one on filter design. There's just one on composing that are really special. So, in any case, back to C Sound, how it works. You've got an orchestra, this thing up top, where you make instruments, hundreds of them, and you've got a score. And the score is where you send notes, call the instrument with notes. If you want to make a MIDI instrument, which I can show you in a second, there's no score, but you use more custom MIDI opcodes, okay? And I'll show you that in 1 second. But basically what you have is an opcode, and you can choose from thousands of them. This is oscill. And on the right-hand side of the opcode are the settings, the arguments, and on the left is the output. And all we think of is the output. I like to think of it as a patch cord, a virtual patch cord. So in this case, A1, A means audio rate. 1 is the name. I could have called it A output, A signal, A really cool sound, whatever I wanted. As long as it has the letter A before it to tell me computed audio rate. A1 is, it's the input to the out opcode. So the out opcode I set and configure. I said, go to my speakers or go to my, that's it. So that's a patch. The oscillator's patched to there. And if I wanted to do anything kind of interesting with this, let's say we wanted to do more, I could say A2, oscill, and I could set its amplitude again and set its frequency different and have a different wavetable play. That's playing wavetable number 1. Let's make a new wavetable just for a second. Let's make wavetable number 2. And this is a gen routine in C Sound that does a kind of Fourier synthesis. So let's just give it some values for amplitudes of partials and things like this. Okay, so now that guy's going to play 2. Now if I want to listen to this, maybe I want A1 plus A2. So I just want to mix them together. So now, it wants me to save them. So, it wants me to save the values. Let's save it on the desktop. 1 RCB, and go. And now, okay, so now you know everything you need to know about C Sound.
Thank you.
I told you, I could have done it in 10 minutes. But no, that's how we begin. Now, if we wanted to make a MIDI instrument, let's say, the difference would be that we would need to use MIDI opcodes. MIDI doesn't know about, durations. So, and in this case, maybe what we wanted to do was, maybe we want to make another instrument. Let's do one more little bit of coding here. Let's say, okay, I've got instrument number 1, it's that. Instrument 2 is this. Instrument 2, I'm going to give different pitches. And I'm going to say I want instrument 1 to play for 4 seconds, and I want instrument number 2 to start 2 seconds later and to play for 2 seconds. And so now we're just making a note list, and we're making a score, and we're starting to make a piece, right? And so I've told it to play different. Now, I don't like that I have to put these numbers in here, and that's great. We could test our hearing right now. I could put in 10,000 hertz or 20,000 hertz, and we could see if any of us can still hear above that. And it's kind of fun. I've had a lot of students then go to hearing doctors and have their hearing tested after my first C-Sound class, because I always test our hearing. But I could say, for instance, let's just add one more thing to this instrument, and we'll finish our nerdy programming tutorial in C-Sound. But I am showing you that it's not that hard to learn. It's very logical, and we could go get another opcode. We could learn by browsing the manual. We could learn by reading a chapter of the C-Sound book. There's all kinds of ways of getting into it. You can study model instruments, right? So, but let's say we wanted to do two things. I'm going to do two more things to this. Instead of putting the numbers there, why don't we say that P5 is going to be pitch, and let's say P4 is going to be amplitude, and let's say P6 is going to be wavetable. Okay? So, I'm going to make a different pitch for this guy, so I'm going to say I want him to be P7, and I'm going to say his wavetable is going to be P8. And what do I mean by these P numbers? It's parameter fields. So the score is saying now, I don't even need that second instrument anymore. Why do I need that? Because now my first instrument lets me tell it what notes I want both oscillators to play and what waveforms I want both oscillators. So here's P1. I should have done this smarter by saying P1, P2, P3. And now you're asking me to add, and by the way, anything after a semicolon's a comment, right? So now you're asking me to add P4, and that's freak, FRQ1 maybe, and that's amp, sorry, amp, and then P5 is FRQ1, and P6 is FRQ2, and it's always good to get in the habit of commenting your code or whatever. Okay, so now I've got these 6 parameters, and I might even line this up a little better. So here's my start time, here's my duration. So my amplitude, I said I maybe wanted 0.2. And my frequency, number 1, we wanted 440, and we wanted, 239 or something. And, and what did we have here? 7 and 8 are, oh wait, I made a mistake. But let's change it. Let's make P6 frequency 2. And let's make 7 wavetable 1 and 8 wavetable 2, okay? Good. So I'm glad I checked, and I'm glad I put comments, because it helped me realize I was making a mistake. WT1 and P8 equals WT2. Okay, now, so wavetable 1 will say 1, and wavetable 2 will say 1, both sine waves this time in the first instrument. And we've got 2 different frequencies, that's good. Now my second instrument, I'm going to just copy this note. We'll paste it here, boom, good. And we'll say, okay, I want this to start at time 4. This time I'll have it start after that one's time 4. And we'll have it play for, well, you know what we'll do? We don't want to waste so much time. So there we go. Now, so we'll say we want this at 123, and we want this at 894, and we want these to both be wavetable number 2. And we'll just run it to test. Right? You get my point. Now I can use my note list to change the behavior of the instrument. That's what P fields let me do. Maybe you want me to do one more thing to this instrument. Maybe you'd like some kind of envelope on it, and maybe you'd like some kind of pitch shifting control on it. So let's put an envelope on it. We'll call it KONV, and we'll use just a linen opcode. Okay, so linen is a linear envelope generator. And how does it work again? I forget. Let's see. Amplitude, rise time, duration, and decay. So amplitude, I'm going to put as P4. And rise time, I'm going to just put a constant for now. But actually, we're going to make it a P field. So let's make it P9, my attack time. And then my duration is P3. And my release time, we'll just give it a 0.5 or 500 millisecond release time. So there's KONV. And now I'm going to plug this here. Instead of my amplitude being a constant, there it is, right? And P9 is attack time. Okay, so now I'm going to make my first node have a 1 second attack, and my second node, we'll line that up over there, and I'm going to make my second node have a 0.1 or 100 millisecond attack. Not bad. Let me make the release shorter, and let me make the duration of the first note a little longer, and the second note will make start after a second of silence. And I think maybe if I really want this to be a little more dramatic, I would do something like that. So a little clearer as a sound example. But you see what I've done, right? I've added an envelope. How did I patch it? Well, I patched it because K on. And what's K? Wait, I only told you about A a minute ago. K means it's a control rate. So C-Sound lasted forever because it separated audio computation from control computation. So if I don't need 44,000 samples of precision for a controller, for an LFO or something, maybe I only need twice as many samples, then I can also specify that's a control version of the opcode rather than audio version. So that's why this word started with a K. And probably you might have even liked me to just call it K1 or K2 or not. It doesn't matter. I can give them names or whatever. Okay, now the last thing you want me to do is you're saying, wouldn't it be nice if the thing did some kind of pitch gliss? So I'm going to call this K gliss, and I'm going to use a line opcode, and I'm going to say I want you to go from, well, let's do it really weird. Let's say, okay, 1,000 over P3 to P5. And I'm going to make another gliss. I'm going to call this K gliss 1. I'm going to make one more. And then this will end our programming part, and we'll get back to the fast, easy part of C-Sound. K gliss 2. And I'm going to say, maybe this is another line. And I'm going to say, I want you to go from 20 hertz over P3 up to P6. Okay, now, where'd that go? What did I just do? Z, 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 Z.
One line higher.
Yeah, I know, that's where I want it, to P6. And did I ruin this? P9, 3, no, we didn't. Okay, now, so what I want to do is I want to say, instead of P5 here, I'm going to say K gliss 1. And often, so I don't even mess up my spelling, I just double click on this and paste it in like this. Okay, so now, okay, I like it, but I'm not really hearing the chord at the end, huh?
Yes.
So what we really want to do is use something like this, a lin seg. And so this is a line segment opcode. And we're going to now have it land on the chord, if you know what I mean. What I'm going to say is start 1,000, take P3 divided by 2, and go to P5, and then take P3 divided by 2, and stay at P5.
Clear.
And then I'm going to say the same thing with this guy,
Evident.
Stay at P.
Evident.
and then stay at P6. And P3 divided by 2, stay at P6. So now we're going, it's going to hold. Now, probably I still need a little more time to enjoy this, so I'm going to tell my duration to now be 6 seconds here, and I'm going to tell this one to start at 7, and also to be 6 seconds long. So, now why it's doing that extra crescendo at the end, I don't know. Let's see. 20, P3 divided by 2, and it all feels good. Oh, I know why. That doesn't belong as P9, it belongs as P3. Remember, I wondered if I typed something wrong there. Now let's go, P7, P8. Now what was P9 supposed to be? Attack time. Oh no, it is P9. That's right, attack time. Oh, that's what happened. It's P3, not 3.
Not free.
Yeah, okay.
It's amplitude 3 times too much.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. You get what I'm doing? We're holding. So, you see how it grows? And how even a little knowledge kind of keeps going? That's the whole point. You start to learn a little, you start to explore, you start to... C-Sound helps you ask questions and then answer them. And like I said, we've got all kinds of Moog filters and just... the sky's the limit. And as far as MIDI goes, the difference... Oh, there's my waveform. That's that second waveform that I designed, which is a little different than the sine wave. Let's see where I want to show you that. let me just show you one other little MIDI example. Let's go to my class at Berkeley, and I've given you most of my classes. This is the fall semester. Here's the C-Sound class. This week we're up to Stephen Yee's Deep Note and table lookup oscillators and all that. But here's the MIDI stuff, and we'll just pick a simple MIDI instrument from here, from my collection. Come on, come on, come on.
It's flying from birds.
Oh yes, you're right. I think it might be trying to go out there. So let me try one more thing. Instead, I'll go here, and I'll go here, and oh no. Okay. I don't want it. I wanted to just take one that was cooked, pre-cooked. Let's see if I can do this. Hold on. Yeah. One more thing. Boom. 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 Let's try it this way. Yeah, it wants to go and get it on with Google Drive, and I don't have the web, and blah 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 blah. Okay, let me just think about how I can do this quicker. Okay, here's how I can do it quicker. Give me 1 second. Good. There. There. All of this stuff is waiting for you. No. Go.
Ordynuję dla pozostałe miejsca.
One more thing. Where are you?
Bettinelli właśnie dojeżdża do Hewa.
Hold on. Good. There we go.
Ma
I have beat you.
laser harp na dzisiaj na 8
I have you.
z Wiednia.
Yes. Okay. This is on the flash drive for you
Czuję
guys.
taki niesamowity
Good.
performance na jutro.
So this is just to
to się
quickly
nazywa.
show you the difference between a MIDI
Będę mówił,
instrument
skończę.
and a non-MIDI instrument. Okay? So when you use C-Sound with MIDI, well, first of all, there's no score because it's expecting me to play the score from a MIDI controller. So instead of that note list stuff I was just doing, you don't need that anymore. Basically, you just turn an instrument on forever. And this is basically saying F0, play for 6,000 seconds. So you turn it on. Now, the only difference here, it's an FM opcode fossil. The big difference here is maybe I need MIDI envelope generators. So here's an MADSR, responds to MIDI messages, knows about note off messages. So my output of fossil A-sig times my MIDI gate. So I'm multiplying the MIDI envelope on this. But also what's going on in here is I've assigned and mapped MIDI controllers. How have I done that? This MIDI C7 opcode. So MIDI C7 says, hey, controller number 21, go from 0 to 1. So K-amp is controller number 21, right? And so, no volume, right? Or volume. 0, 1. Mapped by MIDI. And wait, where did it go? K-amp. Oh, right here, to the amplitude argument of the FM opcode fossil. Next one, I said 22 K carrier. So that's the carrier frequency. C to M ratio is what I'm working on in FM synthesis. So there's that. And so again, I'm saying I want the carrier to go from 0.5 to 4. Well, maybe you'd like the carrier to go even higher than that. So maybe you want it to go even higher than that. So, you know, maybe I want it to go to 44. Save it. Stop it. Run it again. Okay, let's make sure I did stop it. Stop it. Render it again. So now it's going 44 octaves above whatever note I'm playing. Now how am I getting MIDI notes in there? Well, right there, CPS MIDI. So that's converting MIDI note messages to cycles per second. And where's ICPS going? Oh, right here. That's the base frequency of my FM opcode. That's what that was. Modulation index, that will determine the number of sidebands, right, in an FM synthesizer. So I'm saying go from 1 to 20. Well, maybe we want 1 to 200, or 1 to 2,000. So, so there's all kinds of, it doesn't matter about ranges. So here's a modulation index of 2,000, which means there are about 2,003 sidebands. You get my point. Easy enough to map. And what are these little ports? Well, those little ports say, let me smooth out that control. It's like a lag processor to make the control, take out any zipper noise or anything like that. They're not necessary. That's why this guy's commented out. But back in the old days when the computers weren't fast enough, you kind of added those to smooth out controls. Okay. Do I only have 10 minutes left?
Yes.
Oh, I should play you my piece.
Still your time.
No, well, okay, I haven't.
type everything. 10 minutes.
I know, I
You can
only
do
need
that.
10 minutes, but I would really like to play the piece. But here's what I would like to show you are these two other things that, oh God, there's so much to show you still. I'm sorry. Well, I hope you don't mind that I taught you a little C sound, but that did take maybe a half hour and maybe, but at least you understand the logic. I hope it was okay. Now, because what I want to show you is this. Let's throw live in for a second.
Did you get this small HDMI cable adapter? Okay. Understand? Okay. Okay.
So, what I'm trying to show you, here I am in Ableton Live, and I'm going to choose a sort of C sound for live instrument like this.
Okay.
Where are you?
Okay.
Did it work?
And then I've got this explanation about the Rafał Zapora installation, but it is arranged and prepared by Piotr Madej. Okay. See you then. Bye bye.
It's not liking
Pytają
it.
mnie na Facebooku, czy dobre połączenie. Myślałem, że dobre. Dobre.
Okay, a couple of things. We'll come back. But that's a C sound instrument in live. I'm jumping to Max for a second. And I want to show you C sound there, and then I'll show it to you in Cabbage. Where are you? Here's Max. Good. Yeah, good. So this is C sound in Max. Okay. The entire C sound language runs here. So this is C sound running in Max, and if we go back to here, hang on. Where do I want to go? So all of C sound runs in Max. That was C sound as a single opcode. I have some very interesting stories to tell you about that, but we don't have the time. But let's see what I've got here. This is all the stuff I'm giving you. Oh, I think I have it here. Hold on, installers, And it's in here, install C sound tilde. Oh, yeah, okay. C sound for live, cabbage. Okay. So, let me show you a nice example of a C sound, why C sound's cool in Max. This is C sound in Max. Let's turn off the other guy. Stop. So, let's say go. So this is C sound running in jitter and max. And
The second one is still playing.
I know, that's why I'm going to quit it.
Just quit it, yeah.
So, did it quit for sure? I think it might have. Not yet. Let's get rid of it. Boom. Yeah, good. That's encouraging. Gone. Get rust. Okay, good. So what I'm showing you here is, imagine having a utility that lets you visualize C-sound orchestras, that lets you see sonograms and spectrograms of C-sound orchestras, but also one that renders C-sound really conveniently and quickly. So here's a little C-sound orchestra running. Here's the text editor. Forget C-sound QT. Run it in here. There's also, again, no score here. Right? And but maybe instead you want me to just say, hey, I'd really like this piece. Or hey, I'd really like to hear, you know, this piece. You just drop C-sound and it renders. So I'm not running C-sound, I'm just dropping it in Max and running C-sound examples on the fly. Right? Now, I think it could be because my live dongle is gone that I'm not able to show you the C-sound for live examples quickly. But I will show you cabbage for 1 second. And I'll show you how it will help you in Max. This is what cabbage looks like. And again, let me make sure my MIDI's set up and all that. So yeah, there we go, launch key. My MIDI is in. We want external headphones. I won't use the mic pre. So now, so what it looks like is this. It makes beautiful interfaces like this. This is me playing cabbage. Now, by the way, I can say to cabbage, and by the way, it's all C-sound. I could say, show me the editor, and I can see all of the C-sound source code here. Oh, look at this is the graphic stuff, all these bounds, and then, oh, look, linen, line, table I. I can zoom in for you just a second. It's all the same C-sound opcodes that are running, that are making this instrument. By the way, there are about 600 instruments running here. And I can say, export plugin as a VST. I want to export it as a VST synth. So on my desktop, I'll call this Krakow 1. And save it. Now, you heard that it's working. Let's quit. I don't want any tricks up my sleeve. Let's quit Max. Well, let's launch Max again. Yeah. And let's tell Max instead I want to use the VST tilde object. Where are you? Come on.
is Cabbage free or is it
Cabbage is
commercial?
free and open source. Yeah. Okay, so here's my Macs. Where are you?
It's opening. Right?
Still opening,
Yeah,
yeah.
it
It's a
happens
little
to
slow.
Max.
Where is it?
It's opening for a longer time.
Come on.
If you go to the menu bar and you could, if you will be volume, it means that the process is going up. Which is if you go the higher with the mouse.
No, it's not.
Okay.
Good, I'm glad we checked. Let's quit it and let's launch it again. Go, get lost. Good. Ignore. Okay. So we're just launching Max for a second, just to prove that Cabbage makes VSTs that you can put anywhere, essentially. Okay, so here it is, and we'll get rid of you, and we'll say new, and we'll put up the VST tilde object. Boom, and we'll say let's go to help, and we'll say, okay, I want the plug to be that, Krakow 1, and I'd like to open it,
Yeah, and here we go.
and there it is. And if I turn this on and open again, look, it works beautifully, and there are like 150 of these DSP objects as well. They're all cabbages, like amazing. Now,
It doesn't make it 64 bits VST. Do you
I
know
think it
that's
might.
50?
I think it might.
Because
I know.
that's now the
Now the
problem.
issue. Yeah, but I think it might. Good question.
Okay.
If it doesn't, Rory
They
will
will,
make
yeah,
it fix in a
absolutely.
day. He's been amazing. By the way, Cabbage supports C-Sound now running in the VCV rack. So if you use the modular VCV rack, you can export to VCV rack as well. So it's really something. But let me just see if I can darn get live to work for us, because all my C-Sound for Live stuff, a bunch of that is free for you too. Then I could play you my piece if we wanted to end that way. Do you have a minute to hear the piece? Let me just see if live works. There are a bunch of other things I didn't get to show you, but there you go. C-Sound running in Ableton Live. So here's your C-Sound FM instrument. You can run hundreds of them. It actually runs hundreds of copies of C-Sound. This is because of C-Sound tilde. And the nice thing you know about Ableton Live is you can just quickly say MIDI learn that, or MIDI learn that, or MIDI learn this. And now I can say un-MIDI learn, and now right? So that's C-Sound running in live. All of it again. So if you, the whole C-Sound, and the nice thing about our C-Sound for Live instruments, they're all free, and they're all you can click on them and they open up in Max and show you how to make our interface, any of our tricks for doing displays. They're all here. And so it'll launch back over into Max, and you can then see, you know, what's our plugin doing, how does it work, how did I make the interface work. So it's a really great, you know, here it is in Max, and you can say get out of presentation mode, and you can look at exactly how we made the instrument work. It's all, again, open source. And by the way, there are hundreds of C-Sound Live instruments that we made, which are also, again, free and usable, right? So there's that. That was probably most of what I want to show you. C-Sound works in live. Cabbage saves VSTs. C-Sound is easy and has tons of presets ready for you to use as real-time audio, as MIDI, as synthesizers. By the way, Soundflower lets you do inter-application communication, and there's also Audio Jack, or Jack, which you can use on Windows and Linux, that does the same thing. So C-Sound works everywhere, as I said, and a lot of it works without even you knowing anything, except trial and error and having a ball and knowing how to set the preferences so that it has the right inputs and outputs. So there's that. Now, if you'd like, I would love to play you a little of the piece, Cloning a Dragon. if you have a few minutes to hear that. Let's switch over to this.
Is it not the show the secret?
Yes, it's good.
Maybe you can present cloning a dinosaur.
Well, that's right. Today is dinosaur, tomorrow's dragon.
Called different way.
I know, I changed the name. I changed the name
But in fact,
because,
dragon is a dinosaur.
I know it is, I know. But in China, they like dragons.
I know.
And so I went with dragon. And, okay, so here,
Because you know the story about Sensor. That's another story.
is it coming?
Framework portfolio services. That's it.
Come on. Oh, here we go.
Nie działa, to ja żartuję. Ja zastanawiam się. Ja studiowałem w ogóle nie o tym, tylko z kolajbera.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Sonologii. Tam masz chwilę na punkcie do kolajbera, który właśnie ma dużo bugów i dokumentacji, które się zmienia. Nie zastanawiam się
Almost there.
dlaczego. Pokazali nam.
We're almost working like we want.
Ale uczą do kolajbera. A jest kolej do tego, że i tam byli właśnie zachwyceni też.
Okay.
To już go poznałem. A, nawet myślę, że w ogóle tylko, że właśnie mało kto to używa.
Okay, hold on.
Albo ludzie to że muszą sami hodować, i że on to przeliczy, że on dopiero dupluje to, co przeliczy. Tak. Czy to jest Sisa? Lubię się spytać.
Okay.
Chyba nie, chyba się nie. Policja idzie. Nagrać policję, no tylko, że dla mnie to kodowanie to jest po prostu nie do przejścia.
Here we go.
Jestem w stanie...
And we do this. Okay. I think we're ready. It is. It does look a lot like your studio. Okay. So,
Ale wiesz co, ale mi się wydaje, że serio bardzo wyrafinowane brzmienie i tutaj osiągnąć no takie, które inaczej...
okay. So I'll play you my dragon piece, if you will.
Oh, web camera.
This.
Bateria
Shall I begin?
Yes.
Okay. So this is cloning a dragon. It's dedicated to this student of mine, Shenzhen Zhang, and you will hear Shenzhen's lullaby at the very end of the piece. It's all sea sound, everything that you're hearing and seeing. Again, these are the nebulas that are rendering sea sound instruments right now in real time. These guys are playing pre-rendered sea sound instruments, and while I was in China, I got to visit Shenzhen's grave, and I met the master, the Buddhist master there, who gave me his bell, and this is his bell. And in a minute, the master will chant a ceremonial prayer that will play his piece. And so, all of the sounds, like I said, that we're hearing are from sea sound.
To jest jego fascynacja buddyzmem, ale też samobójstwem jego ucznia Ina. Wczoraj go odbierałem, to przychodząc do domu i nam to przez tę godzinę opowiadał. W ogóle Także odjazd. No i teraz dedykacja mam, to chcę przekazać w tej chwili, więc
Kind of like that. That was a shorter version, a little something. Thank you. A little something of the work. It's longer. There's a whole other section that I left out, so you'll have something special tomorrow night. But you get a little bit of an idea. Thank you very much for having me here. Sorry we went a few minutes over, but I really appreciate being here to give this lecture, and I'm around if you have questions or thoughts or whatever, and again, thank you so much.
It was in one part which reminds me of old piece.
Yes, it uses bits of it.
In
Yeah.
But
It's in here, all the instruments have been now turned into MIDI and live instruments, so
Okay.
little bits are here. I mean, that's why I say it's cloned from the DNA of Trapped.
okay.
Yeah, yeah. And so Trapped being one of my first pieces, and this really his last, but also he was just getting started, so I kind of felt nice discovering how to put them together, you know, so, yeah.
Thanks a lot. So you know that was a really great pleasure to have you here, Richard, and we are still with you because you are staying for a couple of days.
Yes,
you are
yes.
leaving on Monday, so if you have any questions, we have also the time for setting up this stuff tomorrow afternoon.
Yep.
If you are interested, you can join Richard because this
Please.
is also
Well, we're gonna be rehearsing this tomorrow afternoon with a lot of this that I didn't show you.
My students are joining now the installation of Edwin van der Heide and Jan Peter Zondag.
Fantastic.
We are just
Yep.
melting like this to be present. Also, there are some lectures which are just before the concerts in Evre.
Yes, I saw.
Leo Bettinelli, he has a lecture before his show. So we are manipulating the stuff like this. Because sometimes when there's a large project, then it's
Set
much more easier to
Of course.
go there and
Makes sense.
to visit
Yeah.
the place. So thanks a lot. We have a show,
Thank you for
the
being here.
opening of the concert at 6 o'clock at
Yes.
Bunkerstücki. 3 pieces, 2 installations, opening of 2 installations, and then the performance by those 2 guys called Tuba Mirum Sargans Sonum.
Good.
With a very special dedication, and there's a very world premiere, if we can use it.
Yes, can't wait.
In general, we have all premiered concerts, and the festival is super natural and hyper regular with this in this extent,
Yes.
you know. But then we go to Hebre for 2 other programs. And your concert is tomorrow with
Yes.
Tomek.
Yes.
Mm,
And I didn't actually do it, but that is here. I would have shown you a little more. I guess I need more than 20 minutes to teach C-Sound. I really do.
then
And but I'll be using all of this tomorrow night with Tomek. And there's wave controllers for that. We'll be doing live sampling with
Okay.
C-Sound on the nebulas, because the new nebulas do live sampling. And also I'll be using brainwave interfaces and other things you haven't seen, and there should be a little extra stuff.
So you see the concept. Richard was showing us, getting us, even making the performance of one of the pieces which will be performed tomorrow in different versions. So with those guys, Edwin van der Heijden and Jan Peterzotek, it's just opposite way. So they have a show today, and they have lectures tomorrow. At 12, Jan Peter Zondag, and 1:30, Edwin van der Heijden. They will be here. So that's the point. You can check it on the website, because all updated version of the program is on the website. We have now the program. We fold it down. They're brand new, you know.
Perfect.
This nice noise in the background of your lecture. There was a noise.
Yes, I was hearing that. That was beautiful. Those noises are in my piece too. So perfect. Thank you.
Oh, you steal it. Okay. Okay, so as you know, for here I divided those things. So there are two pieces on the website. They are combined, they're together, but also separated by color. So it's very easy to find out. There are some changes, but the program on the website is the most updated version. Just for you to know. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you soon.
I would like to ask some questions.
Sure, I'm here.
Sorry.
I can answer them all now live on the web, and even you can go. I'm not going anywhere. It takes a while to put this away.
You go now.
Oh.
Before 2 we have to be upstairs.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise we are losing.
Oh, okay, I'm going.
we are
I have to
losing
go
the
somewhere.
concept.
Okay, I have to go sign a contract,
Okay.
or I won't be
That's a
here.
Quick question.
Go.
All right.
This
And
is,
that-
this is like a
I'll come
group
back.
lab, you know, 2 o'clock. You
No,
go.
but I can come back and answer your questions more later too. But your first
Okay.
question.
Because right now the other popular programming language for processing sound and synthesize on computer is Super Collider.
Super Collider.
So,
This is much more logical than Super Collider. People love Super Collider because of its generative qualities, because you can create sort of instruments that kind of produce their own scores. C-Sound now does that too. Our orchestras make scores. So the orchestra doesn't need to be just a sound synthesizer part, but it also is generative. The Super Collider book is a little bit disorganized, and learning Super Collider is much harder. But again, than C-Sound. But it is very popular language for generative music especially, and many things like that. I have Super Collider friends, and Super Collider book was published at MIT Press. I helped even make that contract happen, so I love Super Collider. But a lot of my colleagues now are telling me that Super Collider is not being as well supported as a language. And so I'm happy to tell you that C-Sound is continuing to be super supported by a core set of developers who keep bringing it a bit more into the future. But I don't know what your question would be, except that Super Collider is good, and if you've spent some time learning it, forget it and get into C-Sound.
Well, you answered my question. I wanted some comparison between.
Yeah,
the
it's
two.
great. Super Collider is great. Super Collider, like I said, it used to. Why we loved it was this idea of spawning events, and so that was kind of great. A number of the better Super Collider opcodes are now in C-Sound as opcodes. I like Dust, and I like some of its noise generators, and we've added some of those things. And we've been inspired by some of the things that are inherent in Super Collider. Super Collider looks more like a programming language, and it is a programming language. So Super Collider has functions.
You know the solution? When you check exactly the program of the lectures, you see the workshop of Super Collider.
Oh, there is one. Good.
Yes, 3 days
And
of
free.
Super Collider
Oh,
workshop.
3 days of Super Collider. Oh my God.
Monday,
Well, you're
Tuesday,
going to
Wednesday.
see that it's going to take
How did
you
you check
3 days to learn Super
Well,
Collider.
I will be there,
No,
but I wanted
but
to.
I want to. Here's the difference. It's going to
And
take
this
you
is not a
3
competition.
days.
This is not a
I know, but it's going to take you 3 days to learn in Super Collider what you learned in 3 minutes. No, but secondly, I will tell you this: Super Collider does look and feel a lot more like a programming language. And so, if you have learned C or Python and you like functions and you don't want to think of things, if you want to think of things as functions and iterative functions and all that, Super Collider always had that going for it. What I will tell you now, it's kind of exciting, is C-Sound has a whole new functional syntax, and so now you can express C-Sound instead of like I did with an opcode. There's the output, and you can now put it all in line with parentheses and make opcodes refer to each other just like functions. It does look a lot more like a programming language. I find that a little more complicated if I just want to think of them as clean modules. But I want you to know that C-Sound also has a new kind of programming look to it. So if I showed you, and SuperCollider supported live coding, and C-Sound does now too. It is for a long time, but there's a big, if you actually go to live.csound.com, the live coding interface comes up and you can do live coding right away. Stephen Yee is doing a ton of it. So all I'm saying to you is they're both great. And I think that, I think that SuperCollider is much more comfortable for people who come as programmers to the language rather than come as electronic musicians to the language. If you come as someone who understands about synthesizers and modules, if you're even a modular person, C-Sound's a much faster learn. But they're both really powerful, and like I said, there's a lot of things that if you love this about SuperCollider, you're going to now find that C-Sound has all of that too. And we did not always have, simple, what looked like C code. And now we do, in case that appeals to you. As I said, it doesn't as much to me, but it can. We have to run to this signature, which we have to sign in 2 minutes. But then I'm going to be around if you want to come back and talk some more while I pack up. Okay? But good, and enjoy 3 SuperCollider workshops. Good.
We
gotta
have
go.
to discuss about the plan.
Okay, I got to get this out of here right away. But I'll leave it here, but let's go sign this thing in 3 minutes, 2 minutes. Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye, thank
you.
W SuperColliderze ma pan jeszcze duży problem z projektowaniem interfejsu. Faktycznie to jest coś, co się no to jest coś, co jeżeli by pan chciał wyjść poza taki świat programistyczny, bo to oczywiście jak się pisze, coś tam, generuje się dźwięki OK. Gdyby pan chciał wyjść z tym na zewnątrz, znaczy po prostu, nie wiem, wyprodukować jakiś produkt, który pan chce udostępnić, sprzedać, zrobić dla kogoś innego.
Nawet MIDI interfejs
jest to strasznie skomplikowany ten interfejs po prostu do niego. Na tym polega problem, że on jest ekstremalnie mocno wydajny i to nie podlega żadnej dyskusji jako źródło. Natomiast nic poza tym. To jest troszeczkę tak, jakbyśmy pozostali w terminalu po prostu i pracowali w terminalu. No, dla części osób to absolutnie wystarcza i jest to mega fajny świat.
Niektórzy
Natomiast
używają na przykład tylko tego samego serweru do robienia syntezy, a używają innego języka do programowania tego.
po prostu.
Ale z pure daty można ze wszystkiego z OSC wysyłać po prostu.
To o to chodzi, że tak naprawdę nie jest to rzecz w jakimś sensie kompletna. Że są narzędzia, które są właśnie bardziej kompletne, bo można zrobić w tym i interfejs, i jakieś graficzne, i różnego rodzaju protokoły komunikacji i wszystko. To jest mniej kompletne. Natomiast nie mówię o braku wydajności, bo to jest mega wydajne narzędzie.
No właśnie jak usłyszałem, że można zrobić za pomocą tego cabbage
znaczy,
VST, to właśnie to jest to właśnie czegoś takiego szukałem w
tak
Colliderze.
To jest rzeczywiście, pytanie teraz jak czyste są te kody VST i Audio Unit, to znaczy czy rzeczywiście to jest tak, że to po prostu programy, hosty będą to dobrze widziały. Bo tu jest pytanie, jak starannie to jest przygotowywane. No ale to w ogóle tak czy inaczej, no to było chyba tylko ten Flog Bidul robił coś takiego, tylko że to było komercyjne. Natomiast rzeczywiście to jest tak, bo byłem już na tej stronie, rzeczywiście, Cabbage Audio. To jest strona do tego i jeżeli to rzeczywiście tak działa, i to oni nawet nie piszą tam, że to jest C-Sound. Ja myślę, że tam jest, po prostu są jeszcze biblioteki wręcz gotowe, to można jeszcze, podejrzewam, na wyższym poziomie, takim właśnie obiektowym, jak w reaktorze, że po prostu się wstawia bloki i to działa. No ale to dobrze wiedzieć, po prostu.
Jesteś wolontariuszem w tym roku też?
Nie jestem. mam dużo rzeczy do zrobienia, które że nam, w związku z którymi mam cały czas wyrzuty, że nie ma żadnego progresu, więc stwierdziłem, że sobie nie biorę żadnych side tasków.
Czasem trzeba się skupić na jednym.
Yes, that was the plan. The plan was to leave it here.
No właśnie, nie mogę was tu zostawić. Nie, bo ja muszę lecieć już do bunkra. No mogę właściwie umówić się z paniami na dole, że ktoś z was zostanie z nim po prostu. I wtedy to jest jakby najlepsze rozwiązanie, najlepsza pomoc. Ja ciągle oczekuję, że mnie ci moi asystenci będą wyprzedzać trochę, ale cały czas są za mną, niestety.
I have a question about
I'm listening.
Właśnie to są takie
Yes.
sytuacje, że
Nebula is just something like clouds from
Robimy na kawę, a ja już po prostu ledwo.
Nie, no to...
Table instrumental.
Nie dojechał.
Nebula is a complete C-sound synthesizer or PD synthesizer. It runs PD, C-sound, it might even run Super Collider. The Nebula, so you can put in any instrument you want.
But it's very similar to clouds from...
No, it's better than clouds. I have clouds, and I know clouds. No. It's
No,
no,
I
but
don't
clouds.
have...
No, I have clouds. I have software clouds and hardware clouds. I have two of them. No, clouds is a small subset of what. Yeah, no, Nebula is all of C-sound. So clouds is great, but no, they're not the same at all in that sense. But they're both great. So, but yeah, no. But the nice thing is that yes, Nebula now, the new one, does have stereo. And it's in some ways, when you just use it without putting in your own C-sound orchestras, it's a lot like like the new Make Noise. What's it called? The Make Noise granular sampler. Yeah, it's like the new Mutagen 2 or Morphogen 2. It's a little bit like that, but also a little better. Well, because it can be more.
Do you have some material for us?
I do. Yes.
Can I copy?
You can copy, it'll take a long time, but you can copy and leave one here or keep it with you and hand it around. Okay, good. It's 16 gigabytes or 15 gigabytes of stuff.
I think 10 minutes.
It might work, yes.
So, Richard, that's also, you don't need to rush.
Oh, good.
So, it's one opportunity is, if you have time, if you are more free, you can stay with Richard. And I think that I'm very sad that I can't do it, because then I'm a little bit collapsing now with
gotta go to
two
your
other
lecture.
venues.
Yes.
I'm not quite clear what's going on in Hebrew, and we have the first day of the festival.
Yes.
I know that the receiver who is coming is always in another position. So, but here we have the space, we have a time. Now, we don't need to rush. You can stay here. You are welcome to come at 1. I can ask Kacper or Simone
Yeah, I stay
to
here
leave the
and if
key
you want to
afterwards, downstairs. You know, that's very clear. You can make a break. You can go for lunch for a great restaurant upstairs.
I love the restaurant upstairs.
Yes. And that's it. You can sit together, you can talk, and you can spend a wonderful time.
That would be
And
good.
if somebody is still
If I
time,
have the key, I can come back
yes,
and
then you can come back here. You can work out. I have a regular class of Audiosfera co piątek. I umówiłem się ze studentami, że odwiedziamy Edwina van der Heide i Anna Petera Zontaga podczas ich już końcowej fazy przygotowań. Taka jest umowa, rozumiecie? Tylko ja tam muszę zdążyć, dojechać i muszę jeszcze po drodze... Wiecie, że ja mam dzisiaj otwarcie swojej instalacji na krakowskim salonie sztuki. O 18 godzinie w Pałacu Sztuk. Była konferencja prasowa już bez mojego udziału o 12 godziny i teraz próbuję się dodzwonić do nich, czy to działa dalej. Bo też jest taki plan, że wolontariusze, którzy otwierają instalację w Bunkrze Sztuki o 11, będą też otwierać moją instalację w Pałacu Sztuki obok. No bo oni jeszcze nie dotarli, oni są gorsi nawet niż my w organizacji. Mają mniej wolontariuszy. A to się wszystko nagrywa, więc może powinienem wyłączyć.